Hi, it's Rich here. Thanks to AG1 for sponsoring this episode of 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. If you haven't heard, AG1 is a comprehensive and convenient blend of over 70 high-quality ingredients, and it's so easy to drink. The first thing I do when I get up in the morning is add a scoop of AG1 to some cold water, give it a shake and drink. It's as easy as that, and it's now part of my morning ritual. As the new year gets underway, I like the fact that AG1 is one of the easiest things I can do for my health. AG1 contains vitamins and nutrients to support my immune system and key minerals and natural ingredients to help me maintain my energy levels and focus. As AG1 is a more-in-one supplement, it's so much simpler than stocking up on lots of different types of vitamins and supplements, and a really easy way to support a healthier lifestyle, especially as we're coming out of the gluttony of Christmas. 1 scoop of AG1 per day supports energy, digestive regularity, immune defence and a healthy mood, so I'll be ready to take on whatever 2025 has in store for me. Looking to give AG1 a shot? Subscribe now and get a free bottle of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first subscription. Go to drinkag1.com/1865 and get started today. That's drinkag1.com/1865.
This episode is brought to you by Unstoppable. Discover the inspiring true story about Anthony Robles, who defied every expectation to become a national wrestling champion in Unstoppable, a new original movie from Amazon MGM Studios and director William Goldenberg, evoking the excitement and camaraderie of classic sports dramas and thrilling wrestling matches. Unstoppable features an all-star ensemble cast, including Jurel Jerome, Jennifer Lopez, Don Cheadle, Michael Pena, and Bobby Cannavale. Unstoppable is streaming exclusively on Prime Video January 16th.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hello and welcome to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast, and we are recording the evening after a very, very pleasant 3-0 win away at Wolverhampton Wanderers. It was the 50th anniversary of when Sir Brian Clough took over at the City Ground, and this victory actually meant the Forest achieved something that even the great man himself never did, with getting 6 straight league wins, beating the previous time that Forest had managed 5 in a row, which was under Frank Clark 30 years ago. So lots and lots of parallels and symmetry to think about there. And Tom Newton, you were at the game. It was a cold night, but you said that you didn't feel it that much, and I'm sure the results helped.
Yeah, definitely. And with Gibbs-White scoring after 7 minutes, it just warmed us up a bit more. But fantastic result again on the road. And like I said on previous pods, the last 2 years following Forest on the road hasn't been great. But at the moment, it's just every single week we seem to be getting these results, and we just don't want it to stop.
So let's talk about the match. And to start off with, let's focus upon the team news. And we knew that Molineux and Callum Hudson-Odoi were back in contention at the very least. And so my question was going to be whether Nico Dominguez would get the nod or Ryan Yates. And it was the Argentine who started the game. So we had Matz Sels in goal. We had Ola Aina at right back and Nico Williams at left back, with Milenkovic and Murillo forming the centre-half partnership. In midfield, we had Dominguez and Elliot Anderson, and then we had Elanga, Gibbs-White and Hudson-Odoi playing behind Chris Wood. Any surprises in the team news for you there, Tom?
No, not. I just think it picks itself, and then if players are suspended, and other players have got the capabilities of just like stepping in and playing really well. And Nico Dominguez, absolutely love him. I think he's been very underrated this season by some. I think he just goes underneath the radar, puts in an absolute shift every single game, and he had another brilliant game yesterday.
Yeah, the thing I think there's always room for a player who's not flashy, who is just quietly gets on with his job, and actually he did do a short post-match interview on Radio Nottingham, which you probably may not have heard unless you managed to get coverage on BBC Sounds, but the interview actually was very much along the lines of how he plays. Maybe it's lack of confidence in English, but he was quite short and to the point and just kind of got on with the interview and then was like, okay, see ya.
Yeah, I'll listen to it because obviously with BBC Sounds, you can just put it on in the car and like listen to it. Yeah, I was quite impressed with his interview really, because a lot of like Latin speaking South Americans don't really like speaking in English. It's usually like in Spanish, and obviously it's translated. But yeah, it pretty much to the point of like no frills kind of thing, just says it how it is in terms of how he's been playing. And yeah, fair play for him to stepping up to the mic, because obviously it's not easy when obviously his first language isn't English.
Yeah, I think perhaps Murillo has set a standard for his fellow non-native English speakers there. Let's talk about the match. And the first moment of note came after just 7 minutes. And we're going to talk about the crowd reaction to our number 10 a little bit later. But if you're getting the bird from the crowd, especially at your old team, and they're being hostile towards you, the best way to answer is let your feet do the talking, isn't it? And Morgan Gibbs-White did what we know he can do, and even more amazingly, he did what Wolves didn't anticipate he could do, because they just left everything open for him, and it was a goal that was so similar to so many that we've seen when Forest are playing on the counter-attack. So talk us through how you saw it.
So it was obviously in the steeple stand lower, and as soon as I think Wolves play broke up, didn't it? And Elliot Anderson's played a lovely ball in midfield. And I said to my dad, I says, here we go, we're in here, because you could just see everything opening up as they went to the towards the South Bank stand kind of thing. And yeah, he just opened his body up. He's given it to Alanga. Alanga's played it in and just really cultured finish. I know it took a slight deflection, but yeah, it's just nestled into Jose Sar's goal. But yeah, it's just, yeah, we all know what Gibbs-White can do when he gets in those positions. He's really efficient, isn't he? And yeah, I'm just so happy for him, because obviously he's had a lot of stick from Wolves fans, not just last night, but in previous matches against them. And yeah, just lets his football do the talking. And we was absolutely loving it in the away section.
Yeah, he didn't just let his football do talking. Let's not forget where that trademark goal celebration came from a couple of years ago. And he didn't disappoint in that respect. And, I mean, it was a lovely counter-attacking goal. I'm glad that you mentioned the reverse pass by Elliot Anderson, because that was basically sticking the ball around the corner, which meant that Gibbs-White is able to run onto it and run with it. And, yeah, I mean, even that pass back, the 1-2 that he did with Alanga, the pass by Alanga back to Gibbs-White, and the fact that Gibbs-White had paused his run. So he basically sold Sebastian Bueno an absolute dummy there, didn't he?
He did, and he's just like really intelligent player, just knowing what's around you kind of thing. And obviously he's just checks his run and giving himself half a yard, and obviously he's just like curled that into the bottom corner. So yeah, it's a really top finish, isn't it, from him? And yeah, and he deserves it. And hopefully, with Thomas Tuchel being there last night, hopefully he's like putting his mark towards him and trying to get him into his first England squad.
Well, yes, and we'll refer to that a little bit later on. Now, we have referred to Anderson, who, you could speculate that Tuchel might have been interested in Anderson, but personally, I didn't feel that the young Geordie had his best match, and he played that brilliant pass for Gibbs-White, but then he blotted his copybook, because he does occasionally, I think possibly in the interest of trying to play the right ball, end up overplaying, and he gave the ball away not long afterwards, which led to Forest being under intense pressure and led to Murillo having to save us off the line from Jurgen Strand-Larsen, and it all started from a stray pass.
Yeah, the Wolves had just had that period, didn't they, in the middle of the first half, where they were like attacking us with real intent, and on another day Strand-Larsen could have got a couple, couldn't he? And if it wasn't for like superb defending from Murillo and later on superb goalkeeping from Matz Sels, yeah, we could have been 3-1 down in no time. So, but as they say, don't you, when you're towards the top of the league, luck goes your way, and when you're at the other end, luck doesn't go your way. So thankfully, luck was on our side last night, because yeah, it's just had that like bit of a 15-minute period when nothing went for us.
Yeah, and Wolves, So Wolves had a makeshift team. Let's not deny it. They had two fullbacks playing in a back three, and Ryan Nuri, his defending is not his forte. He's very much an attacking wing back or fullback, and he's having to play in the back three. Obviously, most notably, they're missing Matheus Cunha. He's only got himself to blame, and frankly, the mitigating circumstances for why he didn't get a 3-match ban came out, which is that he apologised and offered to buy the Ipswich member of staff a new pair of specs. So that apparently worked in his favour. But to be honest, I was expecting him to get 5 games. So bearing in mind it was a short ban and that he had to wait for that ban to come into effect, in that respect, we were lucky because I think with Cunha on the pitch, who's obviously playing with supreme confidence and scoring lots of goals at the moment, who knows how it might have turned. But because Wolves are on a bit of a roll since Vitor Pereira came in, they did give us a match in that first half, didn't they?
They did, and I was just like, I wouldn't say fearing the worst, but I'm like thinking if we don't like tighten up here, we could ship like a goal, or then that will give them, obviously, the tails will go up, and then with the crowd on the side and everything, might go and get a second. But thankfully, we held out. Milenkovic and Murillo, obviously, as centre halves, been playing really well together this season, and obviously Matz Sels behind them, and then obviously the two fullbacks in Aina and Williams. So yeah, we have to be a bit stout, didn't we, in that 15-20 minute period. But it happens in games away from home, so where your back's against the wall. But yeah, we rode a luck and we managed to come through the other side.
Well, yeah, and but before we did, I mean, the Strand Larsen effort off the line by Murillo wasn't the only one. So Strand Larsen also, there's a lovely cross came in. I think it might have been Nuri who played the cross in, and Strand Larsen headed it, and he was not very far out, and he managed to head it straight at Matz Sels. We were just talking before we started recording that as we know, listeners, you will know that later on, Chris Wood got his first and probably only chance of the match, and he just tucked it away. And that's the difference between an experienced striker and a young player, because as we were talking about before we started recording, if Strand Larsen had a little bit more Premier League experience, I think his positioning would have been better, his awareness of where the keeper was would have been better, and his ability to either glance it into the far post or more likely to actually bullet header it in at the near post would have meant that Sels would have had no chance.
Yeah, and it's all about efficiency, isn't it? Like you said, with Chris Wood's one and only chance, he puts that away. Strand Larsen had a few chances last night and didn't put any away. So it's just what happens in football. And thankfully, we was on the right side of it, because if that's like, say, for example, a Gakpo or somebody like that, they're going in those chances, aren't they? So thankfully, Strand Larsen had an off day, and our striker didn't.
And as you mentioned, Gakpo, he's known at the moment for cutting in off the left-hand side and beating the keeper from there. Kind of Callum Hudson-Odoi style. And Rodrigo Gomez, who for me was Wolves' best player, he had one of those efforts, and Sels it would have ended up going top corner. Sels palmed it away.
Yeah, and Matz Sels, he's been brilliant, hasn't he, this season? Been really solid, reliable, and yeah, and that's what you want from a goalkeeper. And either side of him, it's a goal, but thankfully it's a bit closer to him, but you still have to make the save, and he's done that really well, and that's another chance what's gone back in for Wolves last night.
And Sels doesn't just keep him out at one end, because he got the assist for the assist. One of the things that I think Forest have done very nicely in recent times is to score at the right times. So we scored early on, and we scored just before half-time, and it was Sels playing a diagonal ball for Hudson-Odoi, and Hudson-Odoi caught Doherty completely flat-footed, didn't he? And the word that I used to describe it as it was happening said to my wife, "This is explosive" from Hudson-Odoi. And Gibbs-White said he didn't know that Tuchel was in the crowd. I wonder if Hudson-Odoi did know, because that's the kind of special play that you do as a winger when you know that you're being watched for all the right reasons. And not only did Hudson-Odoi completely turn Doherty inside out, he looked up, saw that Wood had positioned him, again, expert positioning from an experienced striker. He took that step away from being right in front of the goal, which meant that when Hudson-Odoi put it to him, he was able to just apply the lightest of touches, and it went trickling in at the far post. I think even Woody looked a bit surprised when he saw how slowly it was going in. It took a moment for him to react, but it was 2-0 just before half-time, and I'm sure as an away fan, you were in dreamland.
Yeah, as we just mentioned, probably against the run of play because of the chances what Wolves had. But it's a great pickup by Sels, isn't it? And Doherty, he was already on a booking, so obviously he couldn't bring down Hudson-Odoi, or it would have been a second yellow card and obviously a red card. But just as Sels plays that ball, on Sky watching back, there's a side shot and Santiago Bueno just drops, meaning he's kept, because Doherty got closer to Hudson-Odoi to obviously try and get tight to him. But then as he's doing that, Hudson-Odoi's just gone beyond him. But then Bueno's kept everybody on side kind of thing, and then he's had obviously a run at Doherty, got the other side of him. Doherty can't bring him down. He just had a glance, hasn't he? And if you watch Chris Wood, and Chris Wood's been brilliant at this all season, he will go with the defender, then he will just check back, just give him that half yard, pretty similar to the Gibbs-White goal earlier in the game. And he's just got something on it and trickled into the far corner, and it's 2-0. And probably some Wolves fans said it's fortuitous because of how they played in that 15-20 minute period before then, but it doesn't matter. If you don't finish your chances, they always say, they always say that they will come back to haunt you kind of thing. And that's what happened. And we went in 2-0, and you would think from then on, Forest are pretty much comfortable because of how we're defending at the moment.
Yeah, there's a little bit of debate about Doherty because everyone said that he'd been booked, but the records are showing that he hasn't got a yellow card against his name. And I was fuming at the time because I was saying for the challenge where everyone thought he'd been booked, that I don't think he was, but he was playing like he had been. So it was 2-0 to Forest. And, let's be honest, Tom, we've talked about it plenty of times how Forest have been the team who've been kind of doing all the right things and then getting hit by the sucker punches. So it's very nice to go in 2-0 at half time. Now, I was speculating that that Forest might make changes at half-time. At first, I thought, well, actually, we might need Morato to come on and to change the back three because of the fact that the way that Wolves were attacking in the first half, they were often getting in those channels between the centre-halves and the full-backs. So I thought an extra defender might help there. But as the half went on, I found myself thinking, you know what? We've got a bit of a Ryan Yates-shaped hole in the team. And as it turns out, Forest didn't make any substitutions at half-time, and they just kind of kept things as they were. Were you surprised by that?
Not really. I think it was the case because I've got that second goal, and then obviously that half-time interval, and it's let's see how it goes. And I mean, as soon as the second half started, we was out the blocks, and I think Tommy Doyle got booked for a challenge on Alanga early on, and then there was a bit of pressure from us. And we look pretty much comfortable, but then I think it's just a Nuno thing around about the 60-minute mark. That's when he starts swapping players, i.e. Morato come on and then Ryan Yates come on and Ward-Prowse a bit later on. Because Nico Dominguez, how much he puts in, he usually only lasts, 60, 65 minutes tops. Yeah. So, the changes were pretty much what we expect from Nuno. There's a common theme in that if you look back at the previous, 15 games or whatever, there's a common theme, who comes off at what point kind of thing. And one of the wingers, it sees that either one of them stays on to the very end, which last night it was Hudson-Odoi, and I think Alanga stayed on until the very end against Everton. Yeah. So, there is a common theme of how he does makes his substitution and how it's going at the moment. We can't complain, can we?
Yeah, I mean, I was slightly concerned about the fact that both Anderson and Dominguez had picked up yellow cards in the first half. Anderson thoroughly deserved. Dominguez, probably the right decision, but he was a bit unlucky because he slipped as he went in for the challenge. So I wasn't surprised to see one of the central midfielders come off. And as you say, Dominguez, you can't argue. He gives everything, doesn't he? So Morato comes on. We go to a back three after 60 minutes. And as we've seen in so many matches, Forest really effectively killed the game in that second half, didn't they? And although Wolves did have a sort of chance, so it was Strand Larsen again. He had a shot which was a bit of a speculative effort from distance. Bellegarde had a bit of a P-roller which deflected wide, but those were both from distance. And the broad rule of thumb is if the opposition are only getting shots in from distance, even if the keeper does have to make a save, you're generally not too worried.
Exactly. I just think that second goal was, stating the obvious, was absolutely massive because it probably just took a bit of their positivity away from them, thinking, look, we played this well when when we was 1-0 down. Now they've got that second goal. It probably took all, like, deflated them even more so. Then obviously the second half, how we changed it and we put Morata on, and they're probably like thinking, well, we haven't scored at 1-0. We haven't, and even at 2-0, we haven't really laid much of a glove on, and now they brought Morata on, and how we're going to get past this, like, Forest Wall kind of thing, then with a decent goalkeeper behind them and Matz Sels. So, yeah, it must demoralise teams at the moment, because obviously we haven't let a goal in since the Villa game. When was that? Something like the 14th of December. So it's coming up to nearly a month since we've let a goal in. So it's just superb, and it's not just the back four, it's how the set traps up all around the pitch. Yeah. And the midfield's been brilliant, and everybody's putting in a shift for everybody. So it's been brilliant.
Yeah, very much so. And although especially when we bring on Morata, we go to that low block. And I would say as well that I thought the back four plus Sels yesterday, Sels obviously got the attention, but I thought the back four generally were really good defensively. And even when we were conceding chances, I thought that was down to the midfield setup not being quite right. But then once Morata came on, and like you say, setting those traps, the whole shape of the team changes, and the setup of the team means that effectively you're just walking into a wall if you're an opposition player. And Forest do kill the game so well. And despite it being a low block, there's not that same feeling of jeopardy that so many fans feel when their team do drop deep.
I think it's the fact that we look comfortable doing it. You know, if you're like, no disrespect, but it needs most when obviously Steve Cooper was here when we had the likes of Cook, McKenna, Worrell, etc. It's kind of like hanging on in there, but with Milenkovic there and Murillo, because both of them can play a bit, but both of them can pick out a pass, and Morata's a decent footballer. I mean, you know, when he's not playing the passes into midfield, he can do it. So we look more comfortable. So it's not like you're not watching the game like through the gaps of your hands kind of thing if you put them on your face. So we're more comfortable doing it, and because you've got that trust with the goalkeeper and how good Milenkovic is and Murillo is, you kind of like thinking, they've made it into an art form, haven't they? And we can defend. We know how to defend. We know positionally, like Milenkovic, every time the ball comes into the box, he's there kind of thing. And it's just made a massive difference to the fans watching the game, but also the players on the pitch as well.
Yeah. So the remaining substitutions, you mentioned that Yates came on. So Yates and Jota came on after 70 minutes, and that was for Anderson and Elanga. So straight swaps there. Yates obviously assumed the captain's armband, which Morgan had been wearing up to that point. And then the later substitution saw Ward-Prowse come on for Gibbs-White and Taiwo Awoniyi come on for Chris Wood. Now, just as we've said in a couple of other recent matches, and the Spurs match in particular comes to my mind, there's just a couple of moments where it looked like Taiwo was going to just battering ram his way through the Wolves defence, and one of those moments meant that he ended up kind of blundering through past Sebastian and Bueno, and is it Sebastian Santiago Bueno, isn't it? I've got his name wrong. So he blundered his way past him, toe poked the ball and sort of nutmegged Jose Sarr, but it just went the wrong side of the post. And let's just say that when the ball went out to Hudson-Odoi, Taiwo made his run, Ward-Prowse broke forward, laid it on a plate for the big Nigerian. I don't think there could have been a more popular goal scorer that night, could there?
Yeah, I've been pleased. I was pleased for him last night when he got that goal. I was just like, when he's come on recently, I was just like, because all he needed is a goal. And of course,
you know, it was reported he had some kind of personal issues. We don't know what that is, and we respect his privacy. But, you know, those things will always play on your mind in a way that is very difficult to quantify. So, and then add to that, obviously, because Chris Wood has been in such imperious form, as a striker, you need to get the minutes under your belt to be able to get back into form, and he's not been able to do that for obvious reasons.
Exactly, and with the personal issues he's had, at the end of the day, he's still a human being. Regardless of what pay packet he takes home every week, he's still a human being with a family, etc., with feelings. So, I was really happy for him last night, and hopefully that's... He just needed the goal to obviously get his confidence back up, and you never know, he might start on Saturday against Luton, which I think he will, because he started in the cup game, didn't he, against Newcastle earlier in the season, and obviously because we got knocked out, we haven't really had a couple of them up until hopefully Saturday, where we can obviously use some of our players what probably don't get as many minutes as the regular first teamers.
So in just a minute, we will talk about the reaction of the crowd to Morgan Gibbs-White. We'll talk about that Luton match, and we'll hear what a Wolves fan had to say about the occasion. Stick with us. Thanks to AG1 for sponsoring this episode of 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. If you haven't heard, AG1 is a comprehensive and convenient blend of over 70 high-quality ingredients, and it's so easy to drink. The first thing I do when I get up in the morning is add a scoop of AG1 to some cold water, give it a shake and drink. It's as easy as that, and it's now part of my morning ritual. As the new year gets underway, I like the fact that AG1 is one of the easiest things I can do for my health. AG1 contains vitamins and nutrients to support my immune system and key minerals and natural ingredients to help me maintain my energy levels and focus. As AG1 is a more-in-one supplement, it's so much simpler than stocking up on lots of different types of vitamins and supplements, and a really easy way to support a healthier lifestyle, especially as we're coming out of the gluttony of Christmas. 1 scoop of AG1 per day supports energy, digestive regularity, immune defence and a healthy mood, so I'll be ready to take on whatever 2025 has in store for me. Looking to give AG1 a shot? Subscribe now and get a free bottle of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first subscription. Go to drinkag1.com/1865 and get started today. That's drinkag1.com/1865.
The NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
Hi guys, this is Dave from Talking Wolves. Wolves 0, Forest 3. I think a result that Forest deserved, or at least the 3 points. I think the 3 goals maybe flattered Forest a little bit, but ultimately I think in terms of their threat in front of goal and how clinical they were, and how poor Wolves were in the final third, Forest probably deserved to get all 3 points. In regards to Wolves, we went into that game with a really strange lineup in terms of players that are out injured. Pedro Lima, who played for us at right wing back, that was his Premier League debut. In terms of shape and personnel, it just wasn't a lineup that Wolves fans or even Vitor Pereira would have wanted to see out there at Molineux, to be honest. I think Morgan Gibbs-White scoring was always going to happen, especially with the jeering in the early stages, to be honest. I felt we could have defended all 3 goals a little bit better, to be honest. But after that first goal, we sort of had a nice spell for 10 or 15 minutes where ultimately we have got to put the ball in the back of the net, and we didn't do so. I think Sels, for you guys, had a fantastic game in goal. But ultimately, with the chances that we created, we've got to put some of those into the back of the net. Obviously, you get the second goal, which, again, I think Wolves could defend much better. And then the third goal right at the end of the game, which is, where you just catch us on the counter-attack in typical vintage Nuno style. Look, I think in terms of Nuno, I said it to George on the Talking Wolves channel, this is the feeling that we had as Wolves fans when Nuno was in our dugout. You would go into every game with the belief that you can get something out of these football matches. And if you guys do qualify for European football, which is probably so crazy and exciting for you guys to hear that, if you can get into European football next season, you will feel the exact same way. You'll be going to places in Spain or Italy or whatever away from home thinking, Forest are going to do this here. And look, you think player for player, there are clubs in the Premier League that may be better than Forest, but ultimately Nuno will always get the best out of these football players. And again, I think you did that yesterday, to be honest. I felt Wolves weren't awful, but ultimately every Forest player on that pitch knew what their job was and did it perfectly. The counter-attacking style, the ability on the ball at times from Forest was bang on, and deserved the 3 points. weird going in, looking at the reaction from Wolves fans after the game. It's sort of 50-50. Some Wolves fans thought we were absolutely dreadful and going to go down. And then I saw some Wolves fans saying, actually, we weren't that bad. And even Forest fans saying Wolves weren't too bad and that we should be okay. But ultimately, obviously, I hope Wolves do survive. All the best to Forest for the rest of the season. Hopefully, I can talk to you guys again next year, or next season, rather. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you very much to Dave from Talking Wolves there. Commiserations on the result. And I think it's fair to say, Tom, that we've got to know Dave a little bit over the last couple of years. I would say Dave is clearly a nice guy and he's not wanted to get drawn into any of the nastiness that's been going around. But the reaction of Wolves fans has been getting more and more vicious and unpleasant. And look, you go to more away matches than I do. I've been going to matches since about 1990-ish, so 35 odd years. And I've heard loads of players getting dogs abuse, but I've never heard almost an entire crowd singing "Your girlfriend's a slag and the baby's not yours" to an opposition player. Talk to me what your feelings are when you're in the away end hearing one of your players being abused like that.
It's abhorrent, isn't it? I mean, I know players go out there to obviously... They're going to get a bit of stick because obviously who he played for before, i.e. Wolves. But when you bring in children into the equation and partners, it's a line crossed, isn't it? It's just below the belt, etc. And the worst thing about it is I bet there's people in there who've got children themselves. And it's just, yeah, like I say, it's abhorrent, it's disgusting. I'm all up for, banter between fans, etc. But when you bring in children into it and partners and attacking a player's personal space, etc. And Gibbs-White's family would have been there last night because obviously he's from Stafford. It's only a few miles up the road and everything. To hear that, it's just not needed, is it, in football? And the worst thing about it, how do you police it? How do you... I'm not suggesting stadium bans or things like that, but how do you, when there's a minority, it's how do you police it? How do you know who said what? Unless
there's an argument that it is just as abhorrent as racist chanting or other forms of tragedy chanting, for example.
I don't know the backstories because obviously I'm not a Wolves fan, but it's just let it go now. And like I said, they've crossed the line, and they just need to draw a line in the sand. But they won't, because they just won't. If they can get one over Morgan in the next couple of years while he's a Forest player or whatever, then they will do that, it's just sad for them, isn't it?
I mean, what I will say is that Morgan was interviewed on Sky Sports straight after the match, and of course, scoring a goal and winning away softens the blow. But he did pretty much laugh it off, and he just said, he just said, "Yeah, I'm going to stick my hood up and get straight on the bus because I'm not sure they want me to sign autographs for them."
The thing is, though, with that interview is that he could have gone down a different direction, couldn't he? He could have basically said, this and that, etc. Wolves fans and like, well, how dare they have a go at me or my child, but he's been really professional about it. He's just brushed it off, thinking, well, I've scored a goal, I've got 3 points for the team, etc. And on the bus I go, kind of thing. So he could have made a bigger deal out of it.
Anyway, speaking of Wolverhampton Nottingham relations, let's hear what Nuno had to say.
We had the luck of scoring really early. That settles down in the game, but we also reacted well. And Matz Sels was very good for us today to keep us in the game. But I think it was overall a good performance.
So that was just a snippet of Nuno there. I think one of the other things that's worth noting in terms of what he said, I mean, obviously he's reflecting what we've already talked about, which is, yes, we needed the goalkeeper, Wolves played well, and, if we hadn't scored the goals at the right times, then things could have turned out very differently. The other thing he said is that, as usual, he said he's not looking at the league table, but he also pointed out, well, we've got Luton to prepare for. So you mentioned earlier that Taiwo's likely to play. When Nuno was at Spurs, he got loads of stick from the players as much as anything else for having a B-team selection, which he played in the European matches, which is exactly what Maresca's doing at Chelsea now and getting lauded for it. Do you think that Forest will play a B-team against Luton in the Cup?
I don't really like using the term B-team because, as Nuno says, he's got his starters and he's got his finishers. Nobody's like a sub. So I think he will mix it up. I think Carlos Miguel will play because obviously he just hasn't had any game time, and I think he would have had like a bit of a run in the side if we'd gone further in the Carabao Cup. So I think he will mix it up a bit, and I think Taiwo will play just for minutes and try and get him up and running, because obviously we need him in case we don't get a strike. And obviously Chris Wood's, I know he's 33 and he does keep himself in decent nick, but you just don't know, do you, in this game? So I think Sousa will play. So I think you will play the likes of Murillo and Milenkovic for that. Obviously that consistency. Probably play Alex Moreno, but
I wonder if Moreno and Moreira will play, maybe like you say, Jota and Ramon Sosa. But the point that you made there, I think, which is really, really important, is that Nuno has said that it's about having the players ready to go. So, like you say, I think it's going to be important for maybe Big Willie and for Sosa and Jota and Taiwo to get those minutes in their legs, so that when we return to league action, we're going to be ready to go. Yeah,
and another thing is that the players who we're probably going to pick on Saturday, they're not like they've been out in the cold for like the last 6 or 7 months. They've been actually playing. They've had they made a real good contribution to the side and where we are in the league. So like Marino, the only reason why he's not in the squad, not starting at the moment, because he couldn't play against Villa because of his parent club. Nico Williams has come in, played extremely well, so he's there on merit. And same with a few other players as well. It's a squad game at the end of the day, and I think Nuno will just rotate it, and he will have that insurance on the bench. I think Wood be on the bench and Gibbs-White be on the bench. But he tried it last year, didn't he, against Blackpool? He played a couple of players who probably...
And we needed the insurance, didn't we?
Yeah, and obviously it was 2-0 down in next to no time, and thankfully Dominguez and Gibbs-White got us a replay up at Bloomfield Road, and then obviously we won in extra time. So I think it's one of those, isn't it? I like us to obviously sustain this league form we're on at the moment, but I think, do we want a cup run? And I would love a cup run, but it's one of those. It's that fine balance, isn't it? And it's but that's why Nuno's on a lot more money than me to make these decisions.
And I hate to say it, but he's also got a much nicer beard than you have as well. Ola, you've got a better head of hair.
And what he needs whiter teeth. He'll probably get some whitened every month. So when that pay package is on.
Let's hope that Nuno's not listening to this. So thank you very much, Tom, and thank you to Dave from Talking Wolves. And thank you, listener, for joining us. Join Stephen and the Maradona Midlands, who will be presenting the Friday 5 this week, where Jamie brings us the latest news, and Stephen and Maradona will also be previewing not only the Luton match, but the Liverpool match, where it's all of a sudden a top-of-the-table encounter. And who'd have thought that we'd be saying that 30 years since we were last in the top part of the Premier League, and 50 years since Sir Brian took the reins at Nottingham Forest. Thanks for listening. Come on, you Reds. Thanks to AG1 for sponsoring this episode of 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. If you haven't heard, AG1 is a comprehensive and convenient blend of over 70 high-quality ingredients, and it's so easy to drink. The first thing I do when I get up in the morning is add a scoop of AG1 to some cold water, give it a shake and drink. It's as easy as that, and it's now part of my morning ritual. As the new year gets underway, I like the fact that AG1 is one of the easiest things I can do for my health. AG1 contains vitamins and nutrients to support my immune system and key minerals and natural ingredients to help me maintain my energy levels and focus. As AG1 is a more-in-one supplement, it's so much simpler than stocking up on lots of different types of vitamins and supplements, and a really easy way to support a healthier lifestyle, especially as we're coming out of the gluttony of Christmas. 1 scoop of AG1 per day supports energy, digestive regularity, immune defence and a healthy mood, so I'll be ready to take on whatever 2025 has in store for me. Looking to give AG1 a shot? Subscribe now and get a free bottle of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first subscription. Go to drinkag1.com/1865 and get started today. That's drinkag1.com/1865.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.